Silent Hill: The Short Message is strange, for many different reasons. Absolutely no one expected for something like this to be released. Yes, a couple of years ago it was possible to find leaks regarding the plot and its themes, sexual harassment, abuse, social networks, etc. And these leaks turned out to be true, and at the end of January 2024, all PS5 owners were able to try out this game for free. Apart from Silent Hill's PT, this is the only game with a first-person view. In addition, this is a walking simulator where you need to read notes and run from a monster named Sakura Head. Really? I'll just call it Sakura if you don't mind. Masahiro Ito, the man who gave birth to various horrific images of monsters in this series, was responsible for this monster as well. This is a very beautiful monster, but on the level of meaning, I didn't quite understand it. Some questions considering cutscene's direction. Why was the setting chosen this way? I would like to discuss it. But from the second I heard the opening melody, I thought, this can't be true. And indeed, Akira Yamaoka worked on the soundtrack. Oh man, don't stop making music, I beg you. From my point of view, there are a lot of contradictory elements in the game. I would not like to retell the plot here, although I will have to. This is a fairly short game and there is no second bottom, multiple endings or anything like that. Even if you don't have time to watch the walkthrough, you can read the plot on the Wikipedia page in about 2 minutes. And I'm not even exaggerating. It's much more interesting for me to talk about the meanings that were embedded in the game and how the creators presented these meanings to us, or at least they tried. The plot revolves around 3 girls, and for the context, we need a brief description of these girls. Anita, the main character, is a very insecure girl. She complains a lot, she's always dissatisfied with herself, believes that no one needs her, that she has absolutely no talents, and that she is unworthy of living. Her envy or even jealousy cost the life of her friend Maya, a talented artist under the nickname Cherry Blossoms, whom Anita praised and tried to be alike. Maya looks like Japanese by appearance, and she was fascinated by the idea of depicting the inner world of girls she knew. She tried to pursue beauty in images, but she was afraid of the future. It seemed that she was at the peak of her popularity and that her popularity would only fade. Her refuge was an abandoned building called The Villa, where graffiti by various artists could also be found. However, this building was popular for another reason. Being the only tall building in the area, some people decided to end their lives there. The third girl is Amelie. Periodically, Anita will receive short messages from Amelie, who will ask if everything is okay with her. Amelie passed her college exams and had to go to study to another city, but due to her family's financial problems, she most likely will not go anywhere. Based on one note, she has a brother who, as I understand, was trying to harass her, and now she's not only afraid of him and his gaze, but she feels unpleasant when guys look at her in general. One day, Anita receives a message from Maya asking her to come to her studio in the villa. Anita doesn't really physically enter there, but rather finds herself inside the building.
But wasn't I just... Oh, yeah. Maya told me to come here.
Once inside, we learn a lot of information about this building and that, thanks to foreign financial fundings, this building was supposed to become a new milestone in the development of the city. However, everything did not go according to plan and construction was stopped. On the way to the studio, Anita experiences strange visions, memories, or something in between. Pills next to bed, sticky notes with insults and scenes of her cutting her wrists. Sometimes we will see flashbacks of other characters, not just Anita. Arriving at the studio, Anita discovers a sketchbook in which she discovers sketches of Maya's future paintings, and we'll come back to the sketchbook a few more times. Anita sees Maya's work on the walls, and she's jealous of her popularity.
It's beautiful. Who did Maya have in mind? Did you post this too? Even more followers. I lost followers again.
Her online page with her drawings is not as popular as her other page where she posts her own photographs.
I need to upload stuff like this to get as many likes as Maya.
At this moment, Amelie calls us and says that she still cannot believe that Maya has died. At this moment, Anita is shocked and wonders how could she forget something so important. Sounds familiar, doesn't it?
I guess I haven't accepted Maya's death yet.
Huh?
Why did she jump from the villa? Why did she have to die?
Maya's dead?
After going out to the roof, Anita discovers Maya's latest work. It is worth noting that after Maya's death, her works began to attract even more attention. Anita thinks that she can become like her and decides to jump off the roof, just like her friend.
Am I back at the villa?
But she doesn't die. Anita finds herself back at the villa and receives a request from Maya to find something. We subsequently learn that Maya had been reading a book for some time, the author of which killed himself. This is partly what pushed her to commit suicide. She was haunted by the idea of living life at the peak of her creative powers. She thought it was charming. In the process of research, you find out the legend about a certain Japanese witch who once blessed the town with prosperity. After a fire that damaged the city's infrastructure, she either took her own life or was haunted by the villagers in revenge. While researching, Anita enters Maya's studio again and discovers an image of Amelie on the wall. This makes Anita think that she was not even worthy of the drawing, as if she was invisible even to her friends.
She didn't see me. I was invisible to her.
It also turned out that Maya communicated with Amelie through letters. Upon learning this, Anita feels jealous and worries that Maya wants to take her friend away. As a result, Anita takes away a letter in which Maya mourns one close person, presumably the guy from the sketchbook, and admits that she wants to run away together. But apparently without receiving an answer, this indirectly leads to the artist's suicide.
I only wanted to take her down a bit. She was taking Amelie away from me. She wouldn't pay attention to me. How was I supposed to know she'd actually kill herself?
Because of this, Anita blames herself for her friend's death. Anita finds herself on the villa's roof again and jumps down again. And wakes up again in the villa. Probably the only truly worthy episode of this game is the moment where Anita visits her apartment. I really like the change in perspective as Anita turns into a little girl, reliving her childhood traumas. We can see this by how much larger the closet is in comparison. We learn that Anita's childhood was not entirely joyful. Their father left them and their mother tried very hard to find a replacement for him. Moreover, judging by the notes, one gets the impression that she was trying to find a replacement and not to find her love. It is also revealed that Anita had a younger brother. Judging by earlier notes, their mother really tried to raise her children with love and not to be like her mother, who was aggressive, screamed, and abused her daughter. But the more notes we find, the more changes in character we see. Anita's mother still manages to find a suitable candidate, but the children don't seem to like him. For some reason, I get the impression that they're doing this not out of malice, but simply out of childish naivety and misunderstanding. Children become a burden for the mother, and she increasingly begins to blame her children for how hard it is for her and that her personal life is not going well. We find ourselves in a time loop, Sounds familiar, doesn't it? Where each time the apartment appears in a more neglected state. Their mother could lock her children in a closet and not let them out for hours. She constantly yelled at Anita and accused her of being a burden, that it was all her fault and she should have never been born. It got to the point that one day Anita's mother locked her little son in the refrigerator until he turned silent forever. Anita enters Maya's studio again, opens the sketchbook again for the third time. She finds an image of herself in it, and suddenly, out of the blue, she realizes that she's not an empty place, as if the Phantom Thieves came out and made a change of heart. Apparently, this is exactly what Maya wanted us to find. This whole game is based on the fact that Anita simply could not scroll through the sketchbook to the end. Anita calls Amelie and pours out her heart about the fact that it turns out that she was not invisible to them all this time, but still decides to jump off the roof, meaningfully leaving her friend in limbo. But for some reason, when the message comes to go shopping, she suddenly doesn't want to die anymore and moves away from the edge of the building.
For you, Anita.
End of story. This game doesn't work for me for a number of reasons. First, we don't have a clear understanding of how this universe works. At the end of the game, we're told that Maya died 6 months ago, and Anita is surprised that she has been in this building for 6 months already. How then is it possible that Amelie is writing to us in real time? Or is it all happening in her head? But the game tries very hard to pretend that everything is happening in reality. And even if this all happens in her head, then in my opinion Anita already realized everything and repented after she found the letter, didn't she? Next is the setting. Did you think that everything happening here takes place in Silent Hill? No, everything happens in the German city of Königstadt. But there is not a single German in the game and most of the books are in English. At the same time, Maya obviously speaks Japanese. The lip sync fails. In my opinion, it would be much better if the game took place in the Japanese setting, because it touches on some problems that are specific to the people of Japan. In particular, the topic of suicide. The way Maya romanticizes death by comparing it to sakura flowers is very Japanese. After all, there are such concepts as seppuku, harakiri, and kamikaze. Even shinju, where two people decide to commit double suicide. At one time in Japan, there were even very popular forums where people could arrange a meeting to take joint action. And this is a fairly common problem in Japan. Yes, previous Silent Hills were aimed more at Western audience, but why Germany was chosen in this particular case, I sincerely don't understand. One of the main things that bothered me a little was this note. It says that after COVID-19, many began to experience the so-called Silent Hill phenomenon. To one who's psychologically unstable, fog represents uncertainty and sensory illusions. When in a state of high stress, one's vision may become obscured or tunneled, as if one is wandering through a dense fog or mist. And on the one hand, not every game was directly related to the cult of Silent Hill. On the other hand, each of the games was tied to a physical place, the town itself. That is, even the very first part took place in the town. And if we take this concept as a basis, then any damn thing can now just happen, and any story can have the Silent Hill title because they added some mist to it. And here we come to the main problem. This game would lose nothing if it were called anything but Silent Hill. But due to the fact that it is called that, it, in a sense, carries the legacy of the previous parts, and now, whether you like it or not, you will look at it in the context of the previous games. and I cannot say that it meets the bar. Anita was just an annoyance to a lot of people, and I cannot blame them. Basically, she's constantly unhappy and constantly whines. It seems that she and Amelie are quite close friends. Most often, it is Amelie who initiates communication. She tries to encourage Anita and be on her side. At the same time, Anita several times during the game behaves as if she doesn't care at all. Sometimes I just don't understand her. For example, here's the scene. Anita finds out that Maya died and jumped off the building. More precisely, she remembers that Maya died. But instead of at least somehow describing the situation, asking for help or asking leading questions, she just hangs up and continues minding her own business. She simply ignores her friend, leaving her in the unknown.
Hello? Hello?
This is where Anita calls Amelie to admit that she is indirectly responsible for Maya's death and is about to go after her to apologize to her. Then she slowly lowers the phone, again leaving her friend in limbo, as if preparing to jump. But suddenly, she receives a message from Amelie where she offers to go shopping and just spend time together. A flow of wind throws her off the edge of the building, stickers with offensive words disappear, and Anita experiences some kind of relief. But why? Imagine if Anita was silently standing on the edge of the building, preparing to jump, but at the very last moment someone called out to her. Otherwise, it turns out that Anita herself calls Amelie, herself talks to her, herself causes her anxiety, herself ignores her again, but then she's suddenly stopped by a message. She was literally talking to Amelie 5 seconds ago. I don't know, this scene seems a little out of place to me. The scene tries to create the feeling that Amelie is there for Anita. Only the problem is that Amelie has always been there for Anita. And based on this, it seems that Anita reacted more to the shopping offer than to her friend's shoulder. Imagine how much stronger this scene would have been if Amelie had not responded throughout the game. Anita would have been spinning various thoughts around herself, thereby burning herself inside. And just before the end, Amelie replies, "I'm here for you." In general, it is obvious that the game is trying to communicate with a more teenage audience. The phrase, "all adults are slaves of the system," mutilation, bullying, and an attempt to link one's identity to one's account on social networks. There's definitely a lot to think about here, but the main problem is that quite a lot of serious topics are brought up, but are not explored or developed in any way. For example, Anita defines her worth only by how many likes she gets, and constantly compares herself to Maya. Anita has two accounts, on one of which she posts her drawings and which is not really popular, and there is a personal account where she posts her selfies or something. In one of the cutscenes, she seems to be oppressed by the fact that she posted some obscene content. But again, we're in no way shown that anything like this took place, and for some reason this bothers her. Here, for me as a player, dissonance occurs, and it wasn't even necessary to show these pictures. It was enough to mention it in a dialogue with Amelie, but instead this cutscene brings up the topic and simply forgets about it for the rest of the game. Gameplay-wise, this is literally a walking simulator where we walk, read notes, and run away from the monster. This is the whole gameplay. Even so, in this short game, there is a place where some players will simply close the game. This is the place. This is a labyrinth where a monster runs after you. Okay. When we get to this location, I personally have no idea what I have to do here. I run back and forth and periodically see illuminated objects. There are photographs on some of them, and when we pick one of these pictures up, I am shown a photograph of a door with chains and locks from Silent Hill 4. I hear the clanging of chains and... what? What exactly is going on? How many of these chains do you need to open? It's quite difficult to tell from the photo, considering that you're constantly running from the monster. And even when you seem to have removed all the chains, you still have no idea where the door is. Yes, you could accidentally stumble upon it, but if you met Sakura and she killed you, then you will have to start this entire segment from the beginning. Speaking of the monster, I really like it. but I didn't really understand its meaning. It seems that the game is trying to show us that this monster is the embodiment of guilt for what Anita did. But at the same time, the game literally shows that Anita associates the monster with her mother. With all this, Anita, unlike James, did not kill anyone. I mean, James killed his wife with his own hands. But here, Anita, did not act very nicely. That is, from the point of view of behavioral science, I understand that Anita has an innate sense of guilt for everything. She's imbued with an atmosphere of guilt for her life, which is why she worries about her failures so much. And that's why she created a monster in her own head that would punish her. But then it goes into slight divergence from the previous scene, and now we come to the second main problem. The creators chose a topic, or rather a state, with which it is very difficult to associate oneself: depression with suicidal thoughts. In universe, I can understand why Anita behaves the way she does. Therefore, this game works under one single condition. In order to understand the degree of despair of the heroine and really feel her perception, the player must be depressed right now. Because a person who has not been depressed will not understand its state by definition, and a person who has been in this state will make every effort not to return to it. And for Anita, as a character in her condition, even such a minor detail as the loss of subscribers can feel like a huge loss, like a decrease in her own importance. I know this because I was there. Depression is not a state when you don't like something. Not a state when you're simply upset, and not the drama of having the wrong syrup in your coffee. This is a very scary state, where you are your own enemy. The episode with the mother is a very clear example of how upbringing can affect the rest of a person's life, how some injuries may take years to heal. Let's just say that I really understand some of Anita's problems, but even so, remember Angela from Silent Hill 2, also definitely depressed, suicidal. But she doesn't whine the same way Anita does. Because of this, you want to empathize with the character. You want to understand and take her side. I think they just went too far with it. Probably the only game I'm really waiting right now is Silent Hill F. The trailer for the game definitely impressed me, and considering that the story is from the man who was responsible for the story of When They Cry, the game definitely has potential, if Konami doesn't cut back on the creative vision here too. Because now we have Ascension, which I don't want to talk about ever in my life, and this game. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video, sometime.